All right, good evening. It's March 22nd, 2023. What I wanted to share tonight is it actually comes from Exodus 15, and it is what's called the Song of Moses. It's really an incredible chapter because what is happening in the context is that Moses has led the people, this whole nations, millions of people, out of Egypt, out of Egyptian slavery, and they are making their way through or towards the promised land, which they haven't seen, they don't know a lot about, but they just know that there's this promised land they're going to be going to. And God has just done these miraculous signs to get them out of slavery. And so the Egyptians have just been defeated. And Moses is going to pause and he's going to sing this prayer to God, recognizing how incredible God is. And so in Exodus 15, verse 11, he says this in a prayer to God. It says, "Who among the gods is like you, Lord? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glory, working wonders?" And what's amazing is when you understand the Egyptian culture that the Israelites were coming out of, they had been living for hundreds of years in the midst of a pagan culture that worshipped people, worshipped Pharaoh, worshipped hundreds of gods. And God was leading them to the promised land where he could establish worship for this new nation that was just at the beginning stages of being formed. And so look at Moses leading the people by singing this prayer to God, going, "Who among the gods is like you, Lord?" And the answer is, there's nobody, God. There's nobody like you. And so the question is, how? How is God different? Well, he answers it in these verses. He says, "Who is like you, majestic in holiness?" So when we think about God, we cannot separate this idea of God's holiness being attached to him. When we say he's holy, means he's perfect, he's pure, morally. He has no blemish, no faults, no weakness. He is completely and utterly perfect. When we say perfect, we think something is healthy and whole and complete. That is God. And if he was to be any less holy at all, he would be less than God. But he is the summit of all that is holy. He is the summation of it. He is the definition of holiness. So that's a number one attribute I would say when we talk about God is he's a holy God. He's a perfect God. But also it says that he's awesome in glory. I think that's really important to note because it's easy for us to want to make God really understandable, relatable, and that's important. But we don't want to ever miss the fact that God is glorious. He's awesome. The things he does are awesome. And if you look at his actions towards mankind since day one, they have been majestic. They've been glorious. Look at his activity towards Abraham and to the nation of Israel. He does these incredible actions to reflect his love and his character and his desire to have a relationship with people. And so he doesn't act in such a way that is minimal. He reveals himself in incredible ways. And he did that to the Israelites. I mean, he parted waters so they could walk right through. He provided food for them. He provided water for them. He established land for them. And then if you look through the Old Testament and get into the New Testament, look at what he did with Jesus. He raised him from the dead. He brought him back to life. And so it's really, really important for us never to think of God as common. He does miraculous things. It says that he works wonders. And I think that really is important for our faith, that we recognize how God works. We don't allow ourselves to fall into the trap of thinking that God is common, or that he's weak, or that he hasn't given us signs showing who he is, providing evidence for who he is, because he has in really miraculous ways. And he continues to do those things. He continues to work in our life in really incredible ways. And we just need to have eyes to see that. So I just wanted to encourage you to remember today that God is unlike any other God in the world. He's the only God. He's majestic in holiness. He's awesome in glory. And he works wonders. And that's reason to celebrate. So love you guys and take care.